Hi everyone. Good to see you on my channel today. Today I will tell you a wonderful story. It is full of love and kindness. I hope you enjoy it and I wish you an enjoyable viewing experience. Thank you.
The daughters were getting ready for the wedding, primping in front of the mirror. Carl sat at the table, watched them from under the nose of captive eyebrows, and in his heart quietly rejoiced that he had saved the children, raised them alone after the premature death of his wife. How much misfortune had been endured. The eldest Lily was short, reserved in her feelings, and as it seemed to her father, smarter than a step will not step until she weighs everything properly. But she's got a head full of books, no use for it. Whatever she does, she keeps a novel with her. Younger May is tall and thin like her father, fidgety. She had time to examine herself and make a remark to her sister. "Why do you need that handkerchief?" "I wrapped the handkerchief nicely to tidy up my hair," Lily replied. "And look at you. You'll go like I don't know who with your hair unbraided." "I will. I like it that way." The willful little sister shook her head. Lily played her lips up and instructively said, "It's only loose girls who go like that, and decent ones should gather their hair as they should." "I don't owe anyone anything." "Dad, tell her," Lily insisted. "What's the big deal?" "Well, I'll tie it up. Now will you calm down?" May replied. Father sighed silently. The force returned from the city to the countryside. The bankruptcy of the company, the death of his wife after the accident seemed a distant, terrible memory. At first in the village had to live with his brother Kostya. Carl worked all winter. He patched up the old house only in the spring he moved with his daughters to his own place. Now in the village it was hard to work on the farm. To live without needing anything, he kept 4 cows, a couple of horses, a pig and chickens. Preoccupied with his thoughts, the father did not notice that the daughters continued the argument. "You're still small, you don't even have a passport," Lily said to her sister Mai. "I'm the little one, we'll see. See who's the bigger of the two of us." Minnie, laughing, stood in front of the mirror next to Lily and was almost a head taller. "Taller than the sky." "Still silly," Lily replied and stepped back. Carl said grudgingly, "Enough of you magpies arguing. Get ready, because without you the wedding will be played." "I'm ready," replied the eldest daughter. "Did you take everything?" "All of it," said Lily, nodding. Her father, a tall, wiry man, got up from the table and slowly dressed, took his bag with the hotels and headed for the door. May once again had time to spin in front of the mirror and was satisfied with her slim but slender figure. She left the house easily. The girl's soul sang and lived with a premonition of something unusual and happy. She wanted that very boy to look at her with delight. "Barry, where are you?" shouted Carl from the porch. The skinny teenager looked out of the barn with a pitchfork in his hands. "I'm right here." "Why?" he asked. "Why didn't you change your clothes? Are you going to the wedding out of Dawn?" Lily asked unhappily. "No, I'm not going." "Why not?" May was surprised. "What didn't I see there?" "Go and have fun, and I'll watch the house." "But as you wish." Dad waved his hand and headed out of the yard. "It's growing wild here, isn't it?" Lily remarked. "Because he's an orphan," replied her sister. Father walked briskly down the road, but May walked ahead of her father, overtaking him every now and then. She was so enticed by the wedding of strangers. She didn't know the groom at all. She had seen the bride only once, when she had run off with her friends to invite their family to the wedding. The girl was related to her mom. The wedding party was already singing and dancing to the lilting harmonica and loud tambourine, the accordionist stretching the harmonica wide. The guests were making pretzels merrily. Only elderly people remained at the tables. The young people went outside. Lily and May also stood in a group of girls. They stood out because of the beautiful clothes they had brought from the city. The girls here wore simple, canvas dresses, flowers, and scarves. Their cheeks flamed, their eyes glistened, and everything was spinning. "What have you missed, beauties?" asked the sisters. A tall, swarthy young man grabbed both of them by the hands and dragged them to a group of dancers. Lily angrily fought back, stepping further back against the fence. May recklessly rushed to dance and cast naughty glances at the guy. The music broke off. The girl curtsied like in the movie. The guy smiled back. "Oh, I know whose daughter you are, Carl." "So what?" May asked cockily. "Nothing, let's get acquainted. My name's Rocky." "I'm May." The guy squinted slyly and winked at the girl. And this is your sister? Yes, this is Lily, Lily. The girl replied, walking up to her sister. Hello, Lily, said the guy. Why aren't you dancing? I'm looking around. Right, first you need to orient yourself on the terrain and go on the offensive, said Rocky cheerfully. I'm not going on the offensive, replied Lily, making an indifferent look. And on the grooms, laughed the boy. Why step on them? No one else. God forbid we crush them, May replied with a laugh. Cheerful girls went to the table. What shall we drink? In the house, when the guests were poured a shot, Rocky shouted, bitter. And then everyone started repeating, bitter, bitter, bitter. The young people shyly kissed. The guests were satisfied and drank. The father looked at his daughters appraisingly, as if to estimate who was better and what kind of brides were growing up. He liked the eldest one better, a short girl with pretty features, but she behaved with restraint, even disdain for the others. May was tall and thin, but open, smiling, and trusting. Lily was dressed in a red dress made in the town's fashion. Her younger sister wore a simpler greenish plaid dress. 2 thick blonde pigtails lay across her chest. Rocky couldn't resist touching one and tossing it over her shoulder. In doing so, it was as if he had inadvertently touched her breasts. May flashed a blush and leaned over her plate, pretending to eat. The guy looked at her sharp shoulders, smiled at the girl. Why do you have 2 braids? He asked in a whisper. Why do I like it so much? We have such a custom in our village. Girls before marriage wear 1 braid, since they do not yet have a pair, and women too. It's true. You're not joking? Embarrassed, May asked and hastily tied the shawl on her head. Rocky took a long look at Carl's daughters. By evening, the guests gathered to take the bride to the groom. It so happened that Rocky and May piled together into some wedding cart, where the attendants were closely seated. The horses rushed to the neighboring village of Adelanto. The people belted out a song. May, too, joined in the disorderly chorus. She didn't know where her memory had brought the song from. Maybe when you heard it from your late mother. Rocky was singing in her ear, squinting his black eyes slyly, humming May to keep her from falling out of the cramped cart. The girl had never been happier in her life than she was now. Under the warmth of the man's rapturous gaze, her soul sang. Soon they reached the groom's house. It was only then that May noticed that neither her father nor sister had arrived. But it did not upset her at all. The guests were sharing, eating the loaf, singing and dancing to the tireless harmonica. And May saw no one but Rocky. They realized only when they noticed that the house was empty. The harmonica was quiet. The party was over. I guess it's late. We should go home, said May. Let's go. Rocky nodded his head and without saying goodbye to anyone headed for the door. The girl followed him, entered the dark room where she bumped into someone in the dark and almost fell. But the guy supported her and led her out into the open air. The cloudy night sky hung over the silent village. Only a few stars peeked out. The black outlines of houses and trees were barely visible in the darkness. May, nearsighted since birth, could see almost nothing, so she held tightly onto her companion's hand. God, I don't even know which way to go. That's a mess, May said. At least I know everything. Aren't you cold? Rocky answered, I'm hot. Then warm me up too. Rocky put his arm around May and tried to kiss her. At first she jerked fearfully, but the guy held her back, and the girl gave herself to a pleasant, not yet known to her feeling of passion, tenderness. When Rocky finally loosened his embrace, quieted for a moment, May, as if wanting to muffle her bashfulness, said mockingly, almost strangled him. I wonder if we'll have our whole lives ahead of us. Ironically, replied the boy. Are you going to strangle me for the rest of my life? With contrived indignation asked the girl. And what else can I do with you? Rocky laughed. Again he embraced the girl and kissed her for a long time until she began to pull out. We'll never get anywhere like this, May said. What's the hurry? It's a long night. The boy took May under his arm and they walked along the quiet village street. It was a pleasant walk. Mai felt the soft and warm palms of his hands. Hearing his breathing beside her, tried to walk with him step by step. Gradually the village ended. They slowed down a little. Where did you live? Washington. Why did you leave here? My father got sick and then he died. Our mother died even earlier. I was 13 when I was left for the master. 3 sisters and all the little ones. It was hard enough. We survived. They walked the road through the field. The piercing night air was blowing through their jackets, but May tried to ignore the cold. "Are you cold?" Rocky caught on. "I need to warm up a little." "On the road?" "I know a place." The guy turned off the road and headed towards some building. "Where are you going?" the girl asked anxiously. "A farmer used to live here. His house was demolished, and the bathhouse is waiting for us." "I'm not going there." The girl was stubborn. "I'll carry you in my arms." Rocky dashingly picked up the girl and carried her away. She didn't break free, snuggled against his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Rocky let May go, opened the door, stepped into the middle of the room. The girl stepped in after him. Beneath my feet rustled the straw that lay there, smelling musty. "See how warm it is in here. Let's go to that corner and sit." "Do you know all the corners?" Rocky's companion asked in surprise. "Last year I hid from the rain so many times here." Sat on the straw, which was soft and warm. "And there are no mice here?" May asked cautiously. "You're so tall, it would take a lot of mice to eat you." Rocky took a bottle out of his pocket and handed it to the girl. "Have a drink. You're hungry. There's no place to sleep." "I don't like your jokes." "No problem, as long as you like me, and there will be new jokes for every occasion." "Here, have a sip. Warm yourself up and be well." "What's in here?" "Arsenic water. Drink it." May, laughing, took a sip, choked, coughed. Like a little child. "You don't know how to drink from a bottle." "But it's vodka." "I don't like vodka." She was indignant. "You just haven't gotten the hang of it yet. Learn from me." Rocky sipped a little, handed the bottle to the girl again. "Try some more, warm yourself up. I've got some candy to snack on and it'll be great." The boy assured the girl. "I'm scared." "Why are you so cowardly?" She took a sip in her chest for a scorcher, pleasantly and warmly spilled all over her body. Rocky put a candy bar in her mouth and asked her, "How's it warming up?" "Really warm." "Where'd you get it?" "Where I got it is done. Let's finish it. Dishes like cleanliness." May took another drink from the bottle and got dizzy. The girl lay down on the straw. She wanted to calm down to sleep. Rocky took the bottle from her and praised her. "Rich man, wench. I got intoxicated with everything." "Nothing, it'll be gone by morning." He leaned over the girl and started kissing her. It was pleasant for her to bathe in his tenderness. She felt her whole body flush with bliss, her face burning. Rocky's hands roamed over her body, stroking, caressing, striving to free her from her clothes. "May, don't be afraid of me. I won't hurt you. See how good we are now. And it's going to be even better. Don't be afraid of anything. Don't push me away. See how good it is, my sweet girl." Pumped by tender words, stunned by love and vodka, her soul recklessly drowned in passion, as if she had fallen asleep, entrusting herself to Rocky's desires. She woke from the cold and opened her eyes. There was light coming through the cracks in the door. It must have been dawn by now. Next to the polanda, arms spread wide with her face up, she pulled her jacket up to cover her chilled shoulder. It was only then that she realized she was naked. A terrible realization pierced her soul. We had everything. How will I live now? How will I ever get home? What horror! She rose cautiously from the straw. A shiver ran through her body from both cold and excitement. She gathered her clothes and hastily pulled on her underwear, dress, and jacket with her naughty hands. I looked at the guy with hatred. Wanted to run out, but the door would not open. The girl angrily jerked the guy's shoulder. "Wake up, you hear? Wake up." He opened his eyes and smiled. "May sleep early. Where are you going?" "What have you done? How am I going to be now?" "I've forgotten how it was. You asked me to." "Asked me what? How could you do that? You said nothing would happen." She asked in confusion. "Nothing happened. What am I supposed to do now?" She asked in despair. "Do nothing. I've been here with more than one of them. Thank God, everyone is alive and well, and now they invite me here themselves." These words were like a slap in the face. She blushed and cried out indignantly. "What kind of a rascal are you?" The girl cried, covered her face with her palms, and jumped out, kicking the door with her foot in anger and almost kicking it away. She hated, cursed the frivolous guy who had convinced her that nothing bad would happen. but himself. May blamed herself for trusting him, for relying on his decency, for taking pity on his orphan. How to live on? She went out to the road, wiped her tears and looked around. She recognized the place and went to her home. On the road, she met an unfamiliar girl, greeted her with a snide smile. May seemed to know everything about her. Terror filled her soul. How to live now, how to return home, and how to look into the eyes of her father and sister. When she entered the house, Lily was already preparing breakfast. Dad and Barry weren't in the room. "Where have you been?" her sister asked indignantly. "I was at the wedding." Quietly, May answered. "Me and Dad were there too, but I slept at home. We went to Adelanto to see the groom." "Who's we?" May, realizing she had almost spoken, explained. "All people are guests." "Who invited you?" "I thought it was the right thing to do. People are coming and so am I." Lily picked up a rag, approached her little sister threateningly and shouted, "I know where you've been. I know where you've been. You slept over with Rocky. He's got a girl besides you." "I don't know Rocky," said the sister, putting a look of indifference on her face. "But the one that's been hanging around you all the time." "Which one?" "The one with the saggy lip? I forgot his name." Lily looked at her sister in disbelief. "He didn't have a saggy lip. He was a good-looking guy. Only a woman there told me he'd been going to nannies for a long time." "What do I care? He can go wherever he wants." "So where have you been?" "I left the house at night, went the wrong way and got lost. You know I can't see very well, and I can't see very well in the dark. I wandered all night, and when it dawned, I found my way home." Lily shook her head and said mockingly, "What do you think of yourself? Everyone in the village is out in the open, and people will think the same of me if they see you walking around." "I don't care who thinks what," May answered indifferently. "But I do care. Your father is looking for you half the night. Shame on the whole neighborhood. I'll show you how to go out at night." Lily furiously pounced, slapping May painfully with a rag. The younger sister, covering her face with her hand, jumped out the door and ran out of the yard, heading towards the woods. Only there could she hide her grief from the eyes of strangers. A tart lump seized her throat. Tears flowed from her eyes. Crying with despair, she thought that she shouldn't live. Nothing would keep her here. As she dies, no one will cry, "My dear mommy, take me to you, save and protect me." No one loves and pities me. I can't live like this anymore. Where are you? Where can I find you? Mom, call me back. Give me advice on what to do, how to live. Take me to the other world. Take me away. Mai remembered that her mother had once been forced into marriage. She had never been able to overcome herself, to love someone she didn't love. Her dislike for her husband was reflected in her attitude toward her youngest daughter. Back when they lived in the city, May, feeling alienated from the family, sometimes ran away from home. Probably she did it subconsciously to draw attention to herself. Most often she went to the market, where good-natured vendors treated her to pies. Her mother would punish her daughter, most often hitting her with a towel or a rag, as Lily does now. These memories made her feel even more sorry for herself. After crying all her tears, she fell into a heavy sleep of a mentally exhausted person. She awoke at dusk. Her legs and arms were numb with cold and immobility. She looked around and remembered the misfortune that had happened to her and wanted to fall asleep again, never to wake up and remember nothing about last night. A wave of chills swept through her body, and she got up and paced. Wanting to warm herself at least a little from the gaps between the tops of the fir trees, the stars looked up at her, and even from them she sought to hide, for it seemed they were laughing and judging her. She wanted to see no one, only death would bring relief. She imagined how she would lie in a coffin, dressed in a white dress and veil. Gradually the forest parted, his voice faded. Beneath her feet and squelched the marsh, water poured from behind the clay of her boots. May realized that she had walked into the swamp in the dark, realized that she would drown and no one would ever find her. No, she didn't want that kind of death. Her leg went down over her knee. May barely pulled it out, but immediately her other leg had already fallen in. The girl grasped fearfully at the side of some bush, scrambled up onto a bump. Nothing was visible in the twilight. She broke a branch, began to feel the path in front of her, slowly going back to where there was a solid bank. Indeed, after a few steps she was back on solid ground. Now it didn't matter where she went, as long as she didn't die in the swamp. Suddenly, Mai felt angry. Why? Why do I have to die? Because Lily doesn't love me. Because he took advantage of my gullibility. What if I have a baby? She thought with fear. Then I will definitely kill myself, she decided firmly. She walked down the forest road. The water was still sloshing in her boots. Her feet were freezing. She wanted warmth and calmness, to the stove to warm herself. From afar came the singing of the first rooster, must have been a dwelling somewhere nearby, and she went to his voice, as if God himself had sent it. Gradually, it began to lighten. She saw that the road led to Uncle Tony's house. She was glad and went through the vegetable garden to his house. She shook off the water a little. She went into the dark hall, fumbled for the handle with trembling hands, and stepped into the room. Aunt Betty was already at the stove. Uncle Barry was sitting by the table. "Hello, may I come into your house?" May said quietly. "Hello, you're here," Uncle Tony said. "Where did you disappear to?" "Dad's been looking all over for you," clapped her hands. "I haven't disappeared." Clenching her teeth to make her shiver, the girl replied. "Have you been kicked out of the house?" With sympathy asked the uncle. "No, I left on my own." Shivering, she replied. Their daughter Leslie woke up and asked in surprise, "Why are you like this?" The guest said nothing. Tears flowed from her eyes from this sincere attention, and sympathy covered her face with her hands. "Why are you like this, May?" Leslie asked sympathetically. "She's all wet. Look at the puddle." "Quickly undress and get on the stove," ordered the landlady. The aunt helped her to take off her wet shoes and skirt, gave her a dry shirt, and helped her to climb on the stove. May trembled like an aspen leaf, fell into the warmth, covered herself, and fell asleep. Leslie climbed on the stove. "I wanted to ask her what happened." "Don't touch her. Let her sleep," Betty told her daughter. "She's very impressionable." Everything in her mother managed. By evening, May had a fever. Her head felt heavy. Her whole body ached and ached. Father and Lily came to see May. She didn't recognize anyone and called for her mother. She must have been very sick. What was wrong with her? Carl asked himself. "She has a cold. Maybe we should take her to the doctor." "Wait, you and your doctor," Tony advised. "Those doctors only want to take money from us. I'll go get old Kathy to give her a whisper," Betty suggested. Go, it'll be safer." Tony supported his wife. Lily leaned over her sister, stroked her hot head, called to her. May is mine. Do you recognize me? It's me, Lily." The girl opened her eyes, looked at her sister with a hazy look and whispered, Mommy, I'm sorry, and I'll never be sorry again. I'm sorry, Mom." Lily looked at her sister's exhausted face that had grown up in one 24-hour period and blamed herself for meeting her so harshly. She should have questioned her affectionately. She would probably have told everything, for she had no friend but her elder sister. May had a hard temper. She could be affectionately meek, or she could suddenly snap and become a bully. Lily touched her sister's hot forehead again and called pleadingly, "May, can you hear me?" Her sister looked at the other one inarticulately, smiled weakly, and whispered, Mommy, stay with me. Don't leave me, it's so hard. It's me, Lily." "Mommy, Lily is angry. She doesn't like me. She swears and fights. Nobody loves me." "What are you talking about, silly? How can I hit you? Are you bigger and healthier than me?" The girl moaned and begged for a drink. There was a stomp on the porch. Betty entered the house with her little frisky and talkative grandmother, who said a loud hello from the threshold. "But evening to good people. Why are you all so vague?" "Bless you, Auntie. Come in. Maybe you can give some advice," said the father. "My daughter is sick. Let's see what you have here." Everything in the house was in motion with the arrival of the witch doctor. Mary bent over the patient, put her palm on her forehead, then pressed her ear to her chest, listened to her breathing. Then she performed some manipulations and began to perch May prayerfully. The girl subsided, no longer moaned, and even breathing seemed to become easier. When Mary had finished the right and left, Carl rose prudently, said, "If it's not too much trouble, let her stay with you, where I'll take her when she's sick." "What are you talking about? We are our own one family. Don't worry, we won't let May get hurt." Lily looked sympathetically at her younger sister and followed her father to the door with a heavy sense of guilt. Could she have thought that that morning's quarrel would end in such a disaster? Little had they quarreled before, but there had never been a time when her sister had left home. May had been seriously ill for a month. Sometimes the girl fainted. Mary came 3 times. Finally, her condition improved. In the morning, May suddenly felt relieved, wanted to go out, threw her jacket on her shoulders. "Where are you going?" Leslie shouted after her. "Nowhere, I'll be right back." May squinted her eyes from the bright sun, went out, turned to the pond, sat on the bank. The pain in her soul did not subside. "Now I'm going to leave in this clear water I belong." May threw off her jacket, stepped into the pond, stepped some more to throw herself into this cold and put out the fire that was burning her soul. The waves ran away from her in circles. She woke up in Uncle Tony's hut and realized with bitterness that she had been pulled from the other side of the world again. A few days later, May felt healthy. Leslie ran out of the house. May concentrated on her thoughts out of earshot, what mother and daughter were talking about. What had she decided? Where should she go? Sighed the aunt. "Where is she going?" May asked in surprise. "Hadn't you heard? She just said she wanted to go to California." "I'm sorry, I was thinking." The aunt looked sympathetically at the girl and shook her head. "What's the matter with you? It's as if you're lost, you can't come to your senses." "Already came. Please tell me why she goes there." "They're signing her up for a job there." "And I want her to sign me up too." May asked. "You're just a little girl." "I know how to do everything." A cheerful Leslie ran into the house and announced that my father had authorized it. Her mother wrinkled her nose in displeasure. "He's always catering to your whims. How will you be alone among strangers?" "She won't be alone. I'll go with her," May said firmly. "They won't take you. You've got to be at least 16, objected Leslie. "I'm taller than you. Who knows how old I am?" "If I'm 16, I'll say I am." "You're a risky one." Leslie laughed. "All right, let's get some breakfast and get going. I'll have more fun, right, Mom?" Betty nodded silently. She started to light the stove, and May thought happily of the fact that she would leave home and not have to see Rocky. After breakfast, the girls went to ask to go to work. "What are you going to do, May?" Leslie asked sympathetically. "I don't know, something heavy on my soul. And my mother taught me so. As shroud sadness, give it to the stone and throw away the water. Your blackness will float away with the water." "And I will do so," rejoiced the girl. She picked up the stone that lay on the shore. She imagined that this was how Rocky had changed and all the evil that had fallen on her after meeting him, and threw it into the pond. The stone tumbled heavily and circles ran in the water. May thought she actually felt better. The secretary, who had come from the farm to recruit workers, sat at a wide table in the village hall, papers piled on it. He was not yet an old man, swarthy, dressed in a gray suit and white shirt with a black tie. He looked at the girls and asked, "What do you girls know how to do?" "All kinds of chores," answered Leslie. "And they will have to work hard," warned the man. "We're not afraid of work." "Are you 16 years old?" "Yes," May persuaded me. "Do your parents mind?" "No, they don't mind," Leslie replied confidently. "In that case, I need to write down all the information about you. What's your name?" "How old are you? The name of the village?" The secretary wrote down the information, said that tomorrow morning they should be at the train station. There will be 10 other young people from the surrounding area coming there to go to work on the farm. May was horrified to think that Rocky would be there too, but she reassured herself that he probably wouldn't leave the farm for some phantom wages. The next day, the girls were brought to the station by Uncle Tony. The boys and girls stood on the platform. A secretary in a black cloak was near them. "Here we are," May said excitedly. Uncle Tony looked at the young group and said to the girls, "If it gets bad there, come back at once and behave well, so that I won't have to blush for you later." "Okay, Daddy, don't worry." The girls approached the young people. The secretary marked them on the list and everyone stayed to wait for the train. The sun shone bright and warm in the east over the rails. They burned, reflecting the bright rays, and somewhere far away converged into one point. The train left in front of the brick station. It picked up boys and girls who, though they lived in the villages on either side of the railroad, most of them were going so far from home for the first time. The carriage moved and familiar scenery floated past. May was silent. She didn't want to talk about happiness or grief. She was running away from her recent past, which she wanted to forget forever. The white farmhouse rose at the end of the long alley, a 2-story building with small balconies on the second floor. To the left of it were the outbuildings. That's where the secretary took the young people. In a small but beautiful building. They were greeted by the housekeeper, a thin old woman with a gray head. She took the list and began to read the names. When it was Mai's turn, the housekeeper even took off her glasses and said in surprise, "She's just a child, as thin as a straw. As long as she loves her work, and she will grow old in time." The secretary replied, "You will have to work all day. We will pay well and feed also well. Who will not be lazy, will not regret that he came here. Now I will show you where you will live, where you will eat, and tomorrow morning you will go to work." The young people were accommodated in a small one-story building. 7 girls were already living in the room reserved for girls. There were bunk beds, a few stools, and a table. Mai chose her bed upstairs, even climbing in and lying down for a moment on her new bed. The blanket and coverlet were, the old, clean. Then they were taken to supper. They were given a plate of thick, tasty soup, potatoes fried with small pieces of meat and morsels. Everyone was satisfied with dinner. "Girls, what village are you from?" a blind boy asked Lily. "Have you ever heard of Texas?" "I haven't, but now I'll know. I'm from Vegas. We got a lot of pretty girls. Why don't you come down and see me?" Leslie suggested it. "I'll pick one for you." "Oh well, don't poke your nose in other people's sausages." Leslie laughed. "You earn money first. You don't want to be a matchmaker with an empty bag. Do you know how much money we have, girls?" cheerfully said the other one, trying to hug May. The girl bounced like scalded and looked angrily at the insolent man. "Why are you so wild?" he asked in surprise. "Why are you jumping on me like a bull? Who would have thought that in the villages such angry girls live?" the boy said. May didn't answer anything. A new life was beginning, and she did not want anyone to spoil it. No, she would not let anyone into her destiny now. In the morning, the boys took the manure out to the field and the girls spread it. The work was not very hard, but for 12 hours they threw so much that they returned from the field in silence. After work, we had enough strength only to change clothes, wash up, have dinner, and go to bed. And it was not frightening. Let there be a sea of work, just not to think about anything, not to remember anything. On Sunday, in a clearing among the linden trees, the young people organized a dance. Leslie started to dance, and May went to the park and only now noticed the first white spring flowers under her feet. The girl thought sadly that soon it would be warm, everything would bloom, but her soul would never be the same carefree joy. "Why is the young lady bored?" There was a voice behind her. May turned around and saw a short, skinny guy with a curly red head. "I'm not bored, just looking around the park. I work here as an assistant gardener and I know every plant." The guy started pointing and naming trees and shrubs. "Don't worry, sir, I won't remember anyway." "And what is the young lady's name?" shyly asked the guy. "May," replied the girl. "And I'm Johnny. Well, we've met. Nice to meet you. Come to my garden more often. In summer, there will be a lot of flowers, apples, pears, berries." "Thank you, but you'll have to live to see summer. Goodbye." Leslie received a letter from her father and read it to May. He wrote in a manly way, summarizing the main news. A lot of boys had been taken into the army. Her uncle listed them all, including Rocky. May thought angrily that he should stay in the army. A burden fell from her soul, for the culprit of her sin and shame was now somewhere far away. On Sundays, she began to go to parties, having fun, jumping and singing. People paid attention to her and asked her to dance. Some even tried to flirt, but May now kept her suitors at a distance. She treated Johnny as a friend because she didn't feel that brutal male aggression on his part, which came from other guys. 2 months later, she received a letter from home. Lily wrote that she had been working as a babysitter all summer, but didn't like the landlady, so she left the job. Father alone can hardly manage the household, hurt his back, lay down for a week. Now he is up and walking around the yard, but he is not a good worker. The elder sister addressed the younger sister as if nothing had happened and supposedly offered a reconciliation. And May accepted it, for she had no other kin but her father and Lily. The leisurely life on the farm was to May's liking. She got used to work, and the evenings walked with Leslie in the garden. "Look, your Johnny's coming. He ain't mine. What do I need him for?" "You'll be a city lady if you stay." "I won't stay. I don't like it here." Johnny said hello from afar, carrying a basket of apples so ripe they looked transparent. "My treat, please," said the boy, placing the basket on the bench. "How delicious!" exclaimed Leslie, biting into the juicy pulp. "You will not be scolded for apples." May asked. They're buggers. I collect them and give them to the farmyard. Are you going to the dance tonight? I'll come. It'll be fall soon and then winter, May said. How long were you hired for? Johnny asked. 2 years, May said. That's good, you'll make money. Help yourself, May, Johnny offered. The girl took an apple. It's delicious. You shine and warm me like the sun. Johnny blushed at this praise and lowered his eyes, hiding his embarrassment. Well, I'm going to go. I have things to do, said Leslie with a sly wink at May. Have some more apples, suggested Johnny. She took a few apples in her hands and left. The yard was empty. I'll go too. May caught up and ran away. Her soul was burdened with its own anxieties, through which Johnny could not reach her soul. 1 year passed, and the second year drew to a close. The workers thought and talked more and more about home. May too wanted to go home already. Lily wrote detailed letters, talking about her father. One warm fall evening, the foreman assigned some boys to drive a wagon load of apples to the factory in the nearest town. He looked around at the group of girls and pointed his finger at May. You're going too? We leave tomorrow at 600 hours. May was pleased that it was she and not someone else who would go to the city and fell asleep in anticipation of an interesting trip. In the morning, 6 boys sat down on the wagon. Then the clerk drove up in a car and invited May to join him. They passed several gray villages. The town was not far away, a leisurely 2-hour drive. After standing in line for a while, they handed over the harvest. Brigadier clumsily climbed into the car, winked cheerfully at May and said, You've done a good job. I have to pay you. He took out some money and handed it to the girl. She was too shy to count it, but realized that the sum was impressive. Thank you, she replied. They drove off, but soon stopped near several stores. I'll go buy something, said the foreman. Can I go to this store too? May pointed to a window where women's clothes were displayed. Just come in for a while. Nye entered the store. What does the lady want? I'd like a jacket and skirt and a blouse. You can try them on here. May hurriedly changed and looked at herself in the mirror with delight. The gray color suited her eyes, and the collar of the blouse was refreshing, making her face look expressive. After changing clothes, May went out to the car. Excuse me, please, what took you so long? Wow, I don't recognize you. The foreman smiled contentedly. Thank you for everything, May replied, embarrassed. The man turned out to a field road as soon as he left the town. Where are we going? The girl was worried. I have business here, the driver muttered to himself. Behind the field stretched a small forest, behind which opened a beautiful lake. The foreman stopped the car, spread a blanket, and put ham, bread, and candy on it. He put down a bottle of wine. He even got 2 shot glasses from somewhere. Sit down, beautiful girl, let's have lunch. The foreman invited the girl. By the way, what's your name? May. That's fine. Me from the forge. The man opened the bottle, filled the glasses, and made a toast. May we always have such a good ride. May drank. The wine, it was flavorful sweet. Drink up, don't be shy. It was easy to sing, and I ate with gusto. Whoever works well should eat well. It's not a work day, it's a holiday. May laughed. It's true. The holiday should be forged with your own hands. You're so good. Let me give you a kiss. The foreman kissed May on the cheek. You're so sweet, like candy. You'll think of something. May laughed. The wine made her laugh. Now you kiss me. The man kissed her cheek. May didn't notice she was sober and dizzy. She lay down on the fallen leaves, breathed in the damp smell of the earth. Rest, 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 and I'm here for you. The man lay down next to her and began to kiss her. She had no strength even to move her hand. Enough of you. You got me so drunk that I'm like a steak. Even my tongue doesn't obey. The girl mumbled exhaustedly. May old age wants a lot, but can't do much. The brigadier crawled away from the girl and leaned back against a tree, breathing heavily. That's the trouble. I thought I would try again. Maybe with a young one it would work out. Not to drink wine, not to love young ladies, it's all gone. He helped Nine into the car. As they drove along, the hops wore off. Already at dusk, she came back cheerful in a new outfit, which caused envy. The girls began to wink at each other and smile wryly. What is it that you have bewitched him? Mockingly asked the neighbor, And who could he choose? Maybe an illiterate. Angrily answered May and went to her bed, undressed and went to bed. Tell me what you saw in the city, Leslie asked. I didn't see anything, May answered, not wanting to share her impressions. What did you buy clothes with? Earned and bought. It's not hard to guess your wages. I guess when I have nothing to do. May didn't realize what an adventure she'd had, but she felt no sin. The foreman had kissed her a few times in a fatherly way, so what of it? He was a nice man and treated her well. Maybe for the first time she fell asleep quickly and easily, as if the guilt she carried in her soul had receded from her. Youth desired a fun and liberated life. Now May had no doubt that she was sure to meet her happiness one day. The second year flew by. On her return, May was habitually drawn into an endless succession. Labor in the field and hayside, in the house and in the yard. In 2 years she had grown into a slender 16-year-old girl. She stood out in a group of girls. Father and Lily were happy with her wages. Little by little, life was rebuilding. Brother Barry went to work for the railroad in the fall. He lived in an apartment in Adelanto. He came home once or twice a month. Lily and May did the housework. Carl felt at peace for the first time. After Christmas, the sisters went out for a party. Music that night was played in the house of a perky girl, the kind they say young, yes early. There was a crowd of smokers outside the house. They invited the girls to come in. They didn't start without you. It was certainly a joke. Already in the yard, they could hear the harmonica playing. Lily was the first to enter the house, and then she crossed the threshold and was stunned to see Rocky standing near the stove in his army uniform. May lowered her eyes so as not to meet his gaze. The young people started polka dancing. Rocky walked up to Lily and May and said hello. How long it's been since I've seen you. How beautiful you've become. He led Lily to the coat rack, as if to help her undress. May stood there not knowing what to do. Should she run away or stay? No, better to pretend she cared about Rocky. There was nobody. She saw Rocky dancing with Lily, hiding her excitement, threw off her jacket, and immediately some guy took her under his arm and led her into a circle. They twirled around. May noticed that Rocky kept glancing in her direction. Look at that. Look at your eyes popping out. Angry, May thought, I wish you hadn't come back. How am I supposed to live now? After a while, May asked Lily, let's go home, it's getting late. She agreed. She didn't really like dancing. The girls got dressed, went outside, headed towards home. Soon they heard footsteps behind them. Someone was catching up with them. The two of them were not afraid, so they did not look back. Who could hurt them? Girls, why did you go out so early? The music's in full swing. It was Rocky's voice. May flinched. He caught up with them, walked between them, taking them under his arms. The touch of his hand, a quivering wave rolled over a body that remembered his tenderness and strength. We have to do everything ourselves, there's no time. Lily answered, I don't have a mom either. Rocky noted, you, Brittany, had a mother who managed for a man and a woman while you were in the army. What are you going to do when she gets married? Lily laughed. I won't let her marry, and in the worst case, I'll marry her myself. Marriage is the worst case scenario for you? Lily asked. Think about it. How can I get married before I've married off 3 of my sisters? Lily and Rocky were chatting merrily, and May was silent, wondering how she could get home without hearing or seeing him. Ma'am, why are you silent as if you had water in your mouth? Tell me at least, how do you live? Asked the guy. Even asked how I live? Cheeky. Angrily, she thought, but answered coldly and mockingly. The best. Our May has been on the job for 2 years, Lily boasted. Rocky whistled in surprise and asked, where can you work at that age? Yes, on a farm alone. Lily answered again. I wish I'd known. I was in the army. I would have found it. May was silent again, realizing that it was an empty speech. He hadn't written a letter in 2 years, she thought. Didn't ask how I was, if I was alive and well, and suddenly he had such a need to see me. Get out of here. Maybe you're getting married? She's only 16. She's a green kid. What kind of marriage? Let her grow up a little. She gave herself 2 years when she drove to work. Lily replied, only 16. Rocky was genuinely surprised. I thought she was older. The snow crunched underfoot and the sky sparkled festively with stars. Lily was chatting merrily and May felt oppressively insecure, walking with her head down. At a bend, she released her hand, lagged a little behind, and stepped forward. Feeling like she was free from his grasp, she breathed more freely. Heading straight for the house, Lily stuck with Rocky. When her older sister entered the house, May was already lying on the bed, pretending to sleep. She experienced insomnia that night, still couldn't decide how she should live her life. Wondered at Rocky's cunning. See how he turned himself, pretending to woo Lily, spinning like a frying pan. Let's see what happens next. Don't let him think I'm going to chase after him. He won't. With this firm conviction, the girl fell asleep sometime in the morning. She dreamed that she saw Rocky again. He catches up with her and kisses her for a long, long time. She woke up and thought bitterly that there was no escape from him in her sleep. That night, Rocky came back to the party. "Where have I been?" asked the hostess girl. Rocky, unhappily and angrily, flashed her eyes. "I talked to the guys on the street about the service. I went outside, you were not there. Standing cold, so we walked a little. It calmed down. Let's go dancing." "Let's go," answered the guy. They twirled. The girl smiled happily. Rocky smiled too and looked away. He didn't like to look into women's eyes because they expected something from him, and he didn't want to promise anything to anyone. The will was more precious. Rocky didn't go to the second dance. His girlfriend was dancing with someone else. After the dance, she came back to him. "Well, what took your soul?" He smiled. "And what are you, jealous, or what?" she asked, lowering the resentment on her face. "To be jealous, you have to love. Why are you so cruel?" "Unfair. I don't throw myself at girls. I've been around Lily and her sister recently." "Go jump with that black guy. He's missing you." "You're silly. Come on, while your mother's asleep, I'm waiting for you." Hotly, Nanny whispered. She cast a glance that called and promised pleasure. That glance of awe and tension pierced Rocky's body. Rocky had been left a round orphan as a teenager. With his older sister, he ran the household and raised his younger sisters. Working the land, it is difficult to get out of poverty. So from time to time he found work to earn money, paid taxes, and bought necessary household utensils. Thus, despite his youth and orphanhood, Rocky was considered a smart and strong master in the village. But he wanted more out of life. He regretted not having a good education. He only finished elementary school. However, Rocky continued to be interested in science. First, he reread all 425 books that were in the school library. Secondly, he bought a Bible from the local bishop and began to study it slowly every free minute. The life of the village people unfolded before him. On Sunday evening, Rocky left for Adelanto, where he intended to meet a friend. The frost was holding out, which invigorated and energized the lad. Rocky entered the house. The host rose from the table and went to meet his guest. "Good of you to come." "How could I not have come?" "Sit down and rest from the road." "Are you hungry?" "No, thank you." "Why didn't you bring some of the other trustworthy guys with you?" Buddy asked. "Some other time I will, but in the meantime, why don't you introduce me to your girls?" "Why do you want to get married?" "I'm just looking. City girls, slutty, country girls, modest, shy. That's why it's hard to see them behind their scarves and aprons." "Maybe you're right, but you want to take one that you can't look at for the rest of your life. It doesn't work that way. Everyone gets older, and unfortunately, so do the ones you love." "All right, let's go to the party." Buddy slung his jacket over his shoulder, and they walked out into the frosty evening. They arrived at the house where the next dance was scheduled. They entered the house and the young people crowded around the door. Girls were dancing in pairs in the middle. The guys were in no hurry to join in, smoking cigarettes, laughing. "They cool," Buddy suggested. "I've got my eyes wide open," Rocky replied. "Take the one closest to you." Buddy asked for a tall, stately girl. Rocky chose a slim girl with a long braid below her waist. Big blue eyes looked at the unfamiliar guy in surprise. Small lips stretched in an awkward smile. It was a girl, a teenager, who had come to the sit-in for the first time. Rocky regretted making such an unfortunate choice, but he invited her in for a few dances and then suggested it. "Come on, baby girl, can I walk you home?" "No, I'll go with my brother." The girl waved her hand. A tall guy approached Rocky menacingly, asking unhappily, "Why do you stick to her or you don't have enough girls here?" "There's plenty of girls. She's the best. I know you. Go back to where you came from." "What's the matter?" asked Buddy in a hurry to stop the fight. Nothing, everything's fine. Rocky turned and walked away. Afterward, the young people crowded around Nani's hut. Rocky shook hands with a few of the boys. "You're going to the hat show," said one neighbor. "You're wrong about the girls," Rocky replied. "Your nanny's busy tonight. Bobby's out with her all night. She's as much mine as she is yours, and who goes around, comes around." "I thought you guys were serious?" "Don't think too much. It can give you a headache. I'm going inside. I'm freezing." The boy went into the house where the harmonica was playing frantically, the heels of boots and soft blades stomped. Couples were dancing. Nanny was sitting with the boy, whispering something in his ear. However, as soon as she saw Rocky, she walked toward him. "Where have you been all night?" "Where I wasn't." "Why are you like this? Have I done something to offend you?" "No, on the contrary, I'm very glad you didn't miss me, and you were making out with the first guy you saw." "Silly, what's Bobby to me?" "I'm making fun of him. He doesn't understand anything, like a little child." She smiled disdainfully, fixing a dark strand of hair, stood on tiptoe, whispered hotly in his ear. "Let's go to the room, I missed you so much." "Yeah, I've seen you miss me." Rocky went out, followed by Nani, and as soon as the door closed, the girl threw herself into Rocky's arms, greedily kissing his face, eyes and lips. He picked her up, carried her away, and laid her on the bed. A hand slid down her leg, obscuring her skirt. "Wait for what I'm going to say," Nanny asked. "What should I say?" whispered the guy with passion falling to her lips. Nanny freed herself from the embrace and said insistently, "Listen, please." Okay, I'm listening. "We're going to have a baby." "What baby?" "Ours." Rocky leaned back and laughed. "What are you doing?" the girl asked warily. "You're so sneaky. Not even a month after he returned from the army, and you want to impose on me a child, which was someone on a walk. It's your child. I've always loved you and waited for you from the army. You are my first." "Who's the first and who's the last?" "You're my only one. You know I can't get married. My farm is abandoned. I've been without a man's hands for 2 years. You're giving up on me and your child." Nanny interrupted him indignantly. "Only you, there is no child yet. Don't mess with my head. I'm not a stupid boy. I don't want you like that, slut." "Is that your last word?" "Last word. You got a pot belly before the army, Gwyneth, and then you refused. She had to go and marry a widower, 3 estranged children." Nanny sobbed. "She wrote me a letter to the army and asked if she should wait for me. I said not to wait." "How could she write to you about a child?" "I don't know about Gwyneth, but I don't believe you. It can't be." Nanny got up and said angrily, "I'll never forgive you for this, and you'll regret it. You will cry and beg, but it will be too late." The girl slammed the door hard. Rocky lay on the hay for a while, chewing dry grass and thinking about how cunning girls are now once in a child. Such blatant lies angered him. He decided he wouldn't look at Nanny now. There were enough girls, at least Lily and May. Choose either the older, small, clever, master, or the younger, cheerful and sweet. And how many more beauties are growing up? Like the one I saw at the party today. The boys and girls went home. A woman with a horse is a mare with a horse. Rocky thought about Nani. "Where were you when Bobby took your Nani to the hayloft?" "I was just getting her ready to go to him." Rocky laughed lightheartedly. "How's that?" "We've had enough girls for a lifetime. There's plenty of young beauties growing up." "Good night." Rocky said good night and went back to his yard. Spring was coming hard. The snow had melted noticeably during the day. The wind was blowing warm, and March was approaching. The first month of spring, when the master had to inspect the utensils to be ready for sewing. During the 2 sunny weeks of March, the high snowdrifts had melted. The souls of the people were secretly stirring in anticipation of prosperity, happiness, and wonder. Sisters Lily and May felt the same way. They did not express their heartfelt excitement to each other and behaved with restraint. In their spare time they read, embroidered, or sewed dresses. The older sister sewed, and the younger May helped. She spent lonely evenings with the family and never went out. Lily, on the other hand, was thinking about Rocky, remembering the good times she had had with him the last time. She thought a lot about the new meeting. What would she say? What would she ask him? It was like she was talking to him. Rocky did show up one evening. Lily hid the joyful fire in her eyes and bent over her sewing, and May started right away to do the chores. She didn't have the courage to look the boy openly in the eye. How to pretend that nothing had happened almost 3 years ago. It had happened. It couldn't be undone. And at the same time, she felt steadily drawn to this guy, as if there was no one else around. "How are you girls doing?" asked the guest. "Nothing, thank God. Where are you coming from and where are you going?" answered Lily. "Coming from home and straight to you. I haven't seen you for a long time and I missed you," he said with a smile, looking into Lily's eyes, because May came out at the same minute. "I wondered if you were sick, not showing your face around the house." "We're fine," cheerfully, Lily answered. "And what are you doing?" "I'm selling Mai's dress, and I've already made mine." "You did? How I would like to see you with a new dress, although I like you in this everyday clothes very much," said the guest jokingly and with a smile. Lily blushed. That guy who she had liked since their first meeting 3 years ago finally noticed and appreciated her, even told her so. Rocky looked at Lily's russet head, her delicate face, and thought she should have been born a young lady. May came in and began to grind potatoes. Steam filled the room. The older sister looked up unhappily and said, "May, take the potatoes out into the hay." The sister threw a disgruntled look at her sister, picked up the huge pot and carried it to the door. "Wait, I'll help." Rocky picked it up. "I don't need any helpers," replied the girl. "Let me at least open the door." "Open it if you don't have anything to do. How do you talk to a stranger?" Lily was indignant. Her sister didn't answer the remark and thought, "A stranger is a stranger to you, but to me, I can't figure out whether it's more love or hate in me." May zealously pushed the potatoes, as if by doing so she was killing her best feelings for the guy. No, she won't live her life depressed and disappointed. She would start going to parties, dancing with all the guys, and let him see that she had her own life, and she wasn't going to let anyone spoil it. May went to the barn to feed the pigs. Lily didn't do any chores. She's been nagging her hernia. Every morning she wore a tight, wide belt that pulled her belly in. May had the whole household in her hands, and the sister read books alone, but Mai sewed new dresses, and thank you for that. When May returned to the house, Lily and Rocky were talking quietly about something. It was awkward. She didn't know whether to leave or to listen. Let them go outside, and the house belonged to May too. She slowly threw off her old jacket, fixed her hair. Rocky involuntarily admired her slender figure. Something suddenly stirred in Mai's chest. Her heart beat excitedly and rushed to meet something unknown, but already desired, as if she had forgotten how much trouble she had experienced because of Rocky. It was sunny on Easter, and the spacious clearing behind the village was especially noisy. Not only young people came, but also elderly people and children. The girls were round dancing and the boys were playing cards. Lily and May stood at the edge of the clearing looking around. Then they sang songs and danced together. After the songs, May suddenly became sad. She looked into the distance and felt that she was going to cry. So as not to give away her mood, Lily said, "The feast is a feast, but I have to go to the farm. Father's left at home to do the chores. Father also needs to rest sometime. Stay among the people, and I'll go. We come together, we go home together." Rocky had been feeling both happy and anxious lately. His name had gotten on the list of candidates for deputy. On Sunday, even before dusk, the young people gathered in the street. Guys stood in a separate group, smoking, joking. Girls sat and sang. From afar came the melodious voice of a harmonica. The youth immediately turned their heads in that direction, waiting, praising the harmonist. The youth in pairs rushed to dance. Rocky did not notice when May came to the middle of the group, sang, waved her hand, danced, beating out the rhythm with her feet. Flexible, slender, like a birch tree. He involuntarily admired the girl. Perhaps her gray suit with a white blouse was not too suitable for this folk dance, but it stood out. May was not a beauty, but she had an ineradicable natural fire of life that made her different from the others, a special attraction. And that fire reawakened a long-ago feeling in Rocky's mind. A little later he approached the girl, put his arm around her waist, whispered in her ear, "We need to talk." May turned her face toward him in surprise, but obediently went with him. When they got so far away that the music was barely audible, May asked, "Where are you taking me?" "I don't know, I'm just going anywhere. I want to tell you something else, that I missed you," said Rocky, put his arms around the girl and started kissing her passionately. She didn't pull out, she snuggled up to him, forgetting about past hurts and sorrows, surrendering to the powerful feelings of his strong hands. They kissed for a long time and could not quench the thirst that had accumulated during the long separation. "Shall we sit down?" he suggested, spreading his jacket on the grass. "But not for long, because they'll be looking for me." "They'll look for me and won't find me. We're well hidden." Rocky laughed. They sat down. May was back in the desired embrace, from which she had neither the strength nor the desire to break free. Rocky loved her. She was willing to make any sacrifice for that love, but she wasn't thinking about anything right now. She just enjoyed this night and wanted it to last forever. Lily tried on Leslie's wedding gown, admiring the beautiful pose. Her cousin, proud of her work, the dress made of white thin batiste with a lace collar, looked very beautifully delicate. "You will be the most beautiful at the wedding," said the seamstress contentedly. "Why shouldn't I be the prettiest? I'm not Nani, who first got a potbelly and then got married." "Really?" surprised Lily. "The belly is already huge. Whose work is that?" They said Rocky. "That can't be right. Gossiping just to smear a good man." People say Nani got pregnant, went to Rocky and told him everything. He wouldn't admit his kid. So she went to Bobby real quick. "It's slutty girls like that who set themselves up to get a guy pregnant and then look for the guilty party," said Lily. May watched her sisters in silence and thought painfully about her own thoughts. She felt that after the last meeting with Rocky, she was also pregnant, and now she didn't know what to do. When she heard Nani's story, she realized that there was no point in asking Rocky for advice or help. He loves only himself and uses girls when he can. Now she was very sorry that she had allowed herself to be possessed. It had happened out of the blue. For whispered, pleaded the boy, her soul. She longed very much for his tenderness and love. She could not refuse the man she loved. No mother, no other person to give advice. Should he kill himself? He will live, yes, girls, love, and will not cry of the grave. Where can I go? Shame. I'm a poor wretch. Lily will bite me, and my father will drive me out of the house. I'll have no life at home or in the village. Everyone will turn their backs on me. And only because of a child that was conceived because of my great love. It's not fair. It's not fair. If no one wants my child to come into the world, then I shouldn't want it. I should go to a witch doctor, see what she can do. May, what's wrong? Or did you fall asleep? Lily called for her sister. She was staring off in front of her as if she hadn't heard anything. What do you want? Back to reality, May. See if it's level, Leslie said. It's even, May replied indifferently, rising from the bench and left the house. What's the matter with her? Asked Leslie. God knows what's the matter with her. She's been walking around for a month like she's lost her mind. May went into the closet, found the money she'd hidden. She went to the witch doctor. The girl was convinced that only this woman could save her from shame and anger, close people. The sorceress met the girl, smiled friendly, looked into her eyes and frightenedly asked, What's wrong with you, baby? Who hurt you? Self. What do you mean? I understand. It's not going well with my boyfriend. I need to be bewitched. I got pregnant. Save Auntie. Stop it. Stop crying. How long have you been pregnant? No, a little over a month. Auntie gave her a look and asked if it's not a pregnancy but a delay. I don't know, Auntie. Do something and put your hands on yourself. Well, wait, die early. Death knows better who and when to take. Tell me, was that time you felt bad because of him too? May nodded her head silently. Poor orphan. No, you have no mother to teach you wisdom. Listen to me. Never let that fellow near you. They'll bring you nothing but misfortune. Thank you, Monty. I don't think I'll ever look at him again. What am I going to do now? Don't you want to have a baby? Everything will change, but the baby will stay. I'm afraid my sister, my father, people I can't even think of. Well, don't cry. Look at this grass growing in the swamp. I know, right? Brew it up and drink half a glass 3 times a day for a week. Thank you for that. You don't say thank you. Remember, don't drink it for more than a week. All right, okay, I brought some. The healer stopped her and cut her off. I don't charge for this kind of help. It's a big sin for us. Auntie, if it weren't for you, I'd probably be dead. Go with God. She went out of the house and looked at the sun. It was still high. The girl first headed toward her house, and halfway there, she turned toward the marsh. Soon the Lasleys played a wedding. There were few guests, Barry invited only the closest family. By evening, however, young people came to the music. May helped Aunt Betty. All day long, she was spinning like a squirrel in a wheel, bringing fresh dishes, cleaning up dirty dishes. She was not happy. She drank the potion. For 2 weeks, her stomach and lower back ached terribly. For several days, May did not get up, exhausted from blood loss and pain, but did not complain to her sister or father. Gradually, the pain receded. The girl calmed down and returned to her normal life, but there was no joy in her heart. She was indifferent and doomed to the world. Almost 2 months, she hadn't seen Rocky, not once gave any indication of herself. May realized that he was just using her like a fool and merrily moved on. Never again would she even look in his direction. It was true what Aunt Mary said. He'd bring more than trouble. Lily was worried about Rocky not coming over too. Why doesn't Rocky come to our house? He's your boyfriend. How should I know? May answered brightly. Lily didn't mind. It really seemed to her that Rocky was courting her. Without her lover, the days dragged on colorlessly and sadly. Even here at the wedding, May smiled at the guests, but it was a sad smile. The girl felt unwanted, as at someone else's party. By the way, Betty only got up sometime in the evening, May said. Go to the young people. Stop there already all drunk and full. Some of them at the table are even pecking their noses. I'm better off here. What's the matter with you, kid? Nothing, I'm tired. What tired youth? Go dance. I think I will. May went outside. Near the house, drunken uncles and aunts tried to dance, but where were they compared to the young people? The girl didn't have time to look around before someone picked up her friend. She looked over and was stunned. It was Rocky. Why are you scared? He laughed. Nothing, angrily, pursed her lips, May. Let's go dancing. I don't want to. What's the matter? It's been so long since we've seen each other. Rocky gleamed his white teeth. He leaned in close to my ear and whispered, You don't know how much I've missed you, do you? May tried to pull her hand out of his, but Rocky held on tight. Let go or I'll call my father. He's standing over there. Angrily, the girl said. The boy let go of her hand disappointedly and shrugged his shoulders. What's gotten into you? May still on the porch. Rocky, meanwhile, asked Lily to waltz. Let her dance. I've got a lot of sin on me, May thought and walked away. For a moment she felt as if her strength had deserted her. Like an old grandmother sitting hunched over on a bench outside her house. That's how I live my life as a homeless person, and I don't know which way to go, where trouble awaits me. Excited voices came from far away. May looked in that direction and saw Rocky with Lily. The girl ran into the house. The sun had risen. Rocky and Lily were walking down a narrow path. The girl smiled every now and then. It put the boy at ease. He realized that she liked him, and that was already enough. Serious and sensitive Lily was the opposite, cheerful and restless May. Rocky didn't care what was going on with May, why she was avoiding him. It wasn't like he'd sworn his love to her. He didn't want to be attached to someone with a soul. I hear you've been nominated as a candidate for Parliament? Lily asked. Yes. Does it matter to you? I think it matters to all of us. I totally agree with you. Well, that's great. I can count on success, Rocky said, hugging Lily. But she slipped away. Is that what's important to you right now? She asked. You can't seduce her that easily. I guess you have to swear a loyalty oath first. The boy thought grudgingly. Hiding the frustration in his soul, he replied. The main thing for me now is my homeland. All our things will be returned to us according to our deeds. And you know, I have never met a person who understood me so well. Sometimes in me, when I read the Bible, I thought you were only interested in romance novels. I'm more interested in historical novels, by the way, but I love novels too. It was you who awakened my interest in the Bible. I'm trying to understand you, your impulses. Oh, to tell you the truth, I don't always understand myself. I'm ready to help you, said Lily, and the sly twinkle in her eye. Give it a try, but how do you do it? Rocky was getting involved in the game that the girl offered him. Both of them, however, were tired of serious conversation. When are you going to get married? Lily asked. I don't know. I have to get my sisters married first, and I already have a girlfriend though. You have a whole village of girls. Many are ready to marry you. Anything mutual is given to one for two. Haven't you been in love yet? No, I've had a few flings, but nothing real. I won't tell you anymore. I don't want to confess a word. I want to kiss. Rocky sat up and kissed Lily on the lips. She was embarrassed by surprise and said reproachfully, "You don't, then why kiss?" "I can do it without love." "Without love?" The girl asked in confusion. For sympathy. "Do I like you?" Lily let herself be kissed again, then turned and ran away. "Lily, why are you offended?" "I didn't think anything bad." The guy started to justify himself. "You're a girl, I'm a guy, we're just going out. It's a casual thing. And I don't want to be a normal girl without love. No, let me walk you back to where I picked you up. Suit yourself." What hotness, what fervor. Only hidden under discretion. "Thanks for walking me out," said Lily, walking into her yard. "Wait," Rocky asked. He detained her for another half an hour, and she could no longer hold back the passion, gave in to the feelings. They kissed and dreamed of being alone. But then the girl tore and went into the house. "Goodbye," she answered from the darkness, already opening the door. Would it be impossible to conquer this girl? No, she'll come crawling back, begging to take me. Rocky thought with passion and laughed at himself, saying what kind of life he had come to, that even a girl did not want to spend the night with him. May watched her sister carefully. She could see how bored Lily was in the evenings, sitting outside the house waiting for someone. Waiting and waiting, waiting for no one. May thought, you can't keep Rocky down with talk. You can't tie him down with anything. He doesn't love anyone. May remembered her recent chance encounters with Nani. She was walking along, carrying a big belly in front of her. She said hello, stopped May and asked, "Does she come to see you, Rocky?" "What do you care?" "Don't trust him." "Why do you care about me?" "Think about yourself." "I'm just trying to be you good, you fool." Salt in the eyes of someone who doesn't wish us well? May said and went on her way. Her sister sat down next to Lily on the stoop and asked, "Is it an interesting book?" "Very." "Tell me, what does it say?" "About love. I'll tell you when I finish. Let's go to the dance." "I don't like those gatherings. I won't go." "I'll go. I'm not 100 years old to sit on the sidelines." "Go. Who's keeping you?" Lily answered blankly. May went into the house, and a few minutes later came out in a blue chintz dress, which Lily had skillfully sewn for her. "Look at your work." "Well, out you go and show it off. I'll be sure to tell everyone it was you." May walked out of the gate and seemed to fly rather than walk. The hem of her light dress was developing. All of her was light. That lightness filled the soul. She wanted to run or spin on the field path as she had waltzed with Rocky, and she began to spin. She opened her eyes and saw her lover in front of her. "Where did you come from?" She was surprised. So many questions at once. "Hello, May," answered the guy hunting the girl. "I came to see you." She bounced away from his hand as if stung by a viper. "Don't touch me." "What are you?" He looked, uncomprehending and resentful. "I hate you. I hate your eyes." Hands understood. "Why?" Rocky asked with unwritten surprise. "Edie is waiting for you there for your Lily? You're jealous of your sister. I was coming to you." "You've already gone to me. Stop it." May screamed. Her voice trailed off into a wail, and to hide her tears she ran. "Wait," shouted Rocky after her. But the girl didn't hear him. She ran down the path. The spikes were hurting her arms and face. It seemed that she was being overtaken by misfortune, from which it was necessary to run away, to hide. She was panting. She stopped only when she ran out to the neighboring village. The voice of a harmonica was heard. May headed there leisurely, approaching a group of girls. Nearby was a familiar guy, Jerry. He asked her to dance. The whole evening the guy never left May's side. As the time passed midnight, the girl said tiredly, "Enough fun. It's time to go home. Dad's going to get mad." "I'll walk you home," Jerry offered readily. "Come on, if your feet aren't too bad," she answered calmly. "Aren't you afraid to walk alone?" May suddenly remembered the night when she had wandered through the woods looking for death. Nature had saved her, however. "Who am I afraid of? Villains don't live here, and evil spirits don't touch good people. Brave, I'm sometimes afraid to walk alone at night." "If you're afraid, it's better not to walk with you." "I'm fine with you. I don't want to say goodbye," Jerry confessed. They walked beside the road. Behind them, the harmonica was still playing. Girls and boys were singing ditties. May cried out, "Oh, I stepped on a rock. I almost fell. My leg hurts. Should I carry it in my arms?" "Carry it. At least I'll rest." May laughed. Jerry easily picked up the girl in his arms and carried her. "You're strong." She was surprised. "So I carry more expensive sacks of potatoes," Jerry grinned. Suddenly, sand splashed in the girl's face. "What's that?" she shouted. Jerry let go, looked around. 5 steps away from them stood Rocky. "You're crazy. You gonna throw a rock?" Jerry went at Rocky with his fists clenched. "I will. What do you think? Let's go back and talk." The boys stepped aside and started arguing. May looked at them with disdain, snickered, and walked towards her house, thinking only of the fact that Rocky himself wasn't living and giving her a life. When was not far from her house, her lover caught up with her, grabbed her hand and asked, "Wait, please, I beg you. Tell me, what am I guilty before you? I don't know what is bothering you, what I did wrong, how I offended you. I think I'll check with Lily." She couldn't explain anything either. He was so subdued now, so helpless. May suddenly felt sorry for him. She replied to reassure the boy. "What makes you think I'm offended? You were yelling that you hated me. I wanted to go to a party, and all of a sudden you're here. Well, I guess she's gonna get in my head again. I've got to fight back. That's all. Lying girl. Forgive my stupidity. Let's sit down here. Did you get so tired?" He spread his jacket on the grass and sat down, pulled May by the hand, sat down beside her, put his arm around her shoulders. "Don't touch me." The girl dodged the embrace. "You scared me. I saw you with him and almost went crazy." "What are you so worried about?" "Why what?" "That." The guy bent down, plucked a flower, gave the daisies to May. The sun lit the heart, filled the soul, an inexplicable feeling of love, a desire that could only be quenched by his kisses and embraces. The girl forgot about her recent troubles. There was no woman in the world happier than her. May kept remembering their meetings, filled with tenderness. Her heart sank, and a passionate wave flooded her body. For 2 weeks he had forgotten about her. That was why the girl was bored and suffered so nastily. The harvest brought all the villagers out to the fields. Carl's family also went to work. May was the fastest and quickest at work. Suddenly she felt sick. She felt dizzy and her eyes started to swim. "What's wrong?" Lily was the first to rush to her sister. She brought her water lightly, patted her sister's cheek. May regained consciousness. She opened her eyes. She looked at her family in surprise and asked, "What's wrong?" "Nothing," answered the father. "Get some rest in the shade. I told you the sun bakes your head." Lily rebuked. "Go home and rest, daughter." May drank some water, took a handkerchief out of her bag and tied it up. She looked at the family members who were back at work. "What's wrong with me? Am I pregnant again? Oh my God, what am I supposed to do now? It's going to be Rocky's baby, the only one I love." But then fear struck, a reminder of the shame awaiting the country girl left alone to go to the swamp to look for grass. So that's why Rocky's out of sight. He feels what he did, and if you tell him what will happen, he won't admit anything, just as he didn't admit Nanny's child, and he'll spread gossip all over the village. "I'm better now, Papa," May said and gathered up her braid. "Take your time. It's a long day. Save your strength." May's cheerfulness was gone from her face. Her hands went slowly. After lunch, Mai felt sick again and began to vomit. The family members thought the girl had poisoned herself. The father insisted that his daughter go home. May did not object. Jerry caught up with her on the way. "Are you mad at me?" "Why will I be mad at you? You're with Rocky. He said you've been with him for a long time." A blush flooded the girl's face. She said indignantly, "He's a gossip. Don't believe him." "I've had enough of girls," Jerry answered indifferently. May could no longer hear him. She turned resolutely toward the swamp. A sharp rush of resentment squeezed the crush out of her soul. Not only was Rocky taking advantage of her, but he was also bragging about his victories. The summer and fall passed restlessly for Rocky. Had to spend a lot of time on meetings as a candidate. He met with young people to old people, walked around, feeling the close victory in the elections, and the support of the villagers was in anticipation of a new life. Rocky rejoiced that he had achieved everything he wanted. With 2 sisters married, he couldn't hold his joy any longer. He wanted to share it. So he went to visit Lily and Nay. Both sisters were home. Lily was happy to see him, welcomed him. "Did you forget to come here? I didn't forget, I've just been very busy. He glanced at the silent May, who was knitting something and never looked up. How have you been? No change. My father's gone to his uncle's, and we're at home. Do you still sew? Yes, I make a little money sewing. What kind of jacket will you make me? I will. It will be the most beautiful. Lily promised eagerly. May glared angrily at her sister. She's anointing herself, so be it. I hate him and her with him. What am I doing here? I have to go. May decided. She got up, dropped her knitting and left the house. What's she doing? Rocky asked. Who knows who she is? She's kind of weird. Maybe you two had a fight. She's been quiet lately. One night I heard her sobbing and crying. I started asking her what was wrong. She didn't say anything. She pretended to be asleep. What about you? I was waiting for you. Lily confessed and lowered her eyes shamefully. If it was necessary, you would have come yourself. They'll laugh at you. They'll say they're chasing you. You're a good girl. I'll meet you tonight by the woods. I want you to know that we're together now. Rocky leaned over and kissed Lily on the lips. I don't understand you. Helplessly, Lily said. I don't understand myself. I see a beautiful girl, and one thought I have is to kiss her. I never realized you were so fickle. I'm worse than fickle. I've been fickle forever. I'll meet you tonight. I'm going out. Rocky wrapped his arms around her, started kissing her, feeling a flutter of excited warmth. Picked her up in his arms, carried her rude to the bed. Aren't yours coming back? I don't know. Lily was confused. But we'll hear, he answered. Laying her on the bed and pushing up her skirt, soon Rocky came out of the house and looked around the yard. May was stacking firewood. Suddenly, someone hugged her tightly around the shoulders. She cried out in surprise. She looked back, saw Rocky, and resolutely freed herself from his embrace. Why are you so angry? Asked the guy, lowering the look of resentment on his face. Why are you pouncing like a hungry man on bacon? I'm not your wife. What kind of a fool hugged his wife? Rocky laughed. You just want to take and then not to hug. I haven't seen you in so long. I've missed you terribly, and you don't even want to look at me. The guy rebuked the girl. Soon there was a vote. Rocky did not become a deputy. A single man didn't inspire confidence. One of the villagers wanted to marry Rocky's older sister. Don't you have anyone else to match? Why not? I'm choosing. I want a girl with a good dowry. You know, you're a good boy, but you're too stingy. I won't marry your sister. She's an old maid. No one would ever look at her. I need her myself, a good mistress. Where will I find someone like her to marry? It's time you married your own. Lately, May had been living in anxiety and vain hopes. Every day she waited for Rocky, but he was attached to Lily, secretly making appointments for her sister and spending pleasant evenings with her. Lily gave up and waited for the guy to matchmake soon. He never came to their house. There was no need for him to go out with the girl who loved him. May realized again that she was pregnant again in her soul. Her love began to be slowly supplanted by hate, cursing herself for her gullibility and inability to say no to the one who was taking advantage of her love. If there is no father, there should be no child. This age-old patriarchal law of the village to transgress, which the girl has no right to cross. Shame will fall on you and your family. With guilt and shame, not everyone is able to survive. Some village girls have killed themselves or died trying to kill their child. Mai also said that she didn't want to live. She would rather die than bear a child and dishonor her family. By herself, the decision came that she would forget Rocky forever. Never even look in his direction. He's a traitor, a reprobate, a troublemaker. No matter how long she was with him, he would always leave her in trouble as well, and the pregnancy, well, it could be gotten rid of. The lust for life was gradually returning to her. The girl went to church after confession. May felt freer and lighter. On the way back, someone took her under the arm and quickly led her forward. She glanced to the side, saw Rocky, and felt sluggish throughout her body. Marry me, her lover suddenly suggested. Her head went spinning. If the guy hadn't held her under his arm, she would have fallen here right in the middle of the road. But he held her so tightly that she could neither fall nor break free. May looked at him again, as if not believing her eyes, and suddenly joy filled her soul. Come to your father for marriage. Everything happened just as she had dreamed. She felt his hand trembling with excitement. That trembling was transmitted to her. So they walked under strangers' gazes, open to the world, and nothing could separate them now. An outsider might have thought that they were walking spouses who loved each other very much. After all, girls and guys are not allowed to walk like that. But Mee didn't care what people thought of her now. She was happy to be seen under the arm of the person she loved. Let him lead wherever he wanted. Only this road would never end. At home, May suggested, "Let's come over to our place, Lily will be glad," said Mee nonchalantly as if testing him. "How is she?" "She usually sews a lot, reads a lot." "Well, it'll be interesting to talk to her. Let's go to your place." Rocky put his arm around May and kissed her. She broke free and bounced away from him. "What are you so wild about? There were people on the road." "No one here. Anybody from our house gonna see?" "All right, I'll wait till tonight." "I'm not sure I'll see you tonight." "What's that?" Lily almost threw herself into a hut when she saw Rocky, but when she saw his calm gaze, she remained standing by the table. "How are you?" "Thank God, everyone is alive and well," replied the master, and as girls' grooms beat all the thresholds. "Fun?" asked the boy, looking at Lily. "There were matchmakers, but my daughters refused to marry," said the father sadly. Lily snatched up the letter and said, "There's an American who's asking me to marry him. I wouldn't want her to have anything to do with that man." "Do you know him?" Lily asked in surprise. "I don't know him, and I don't want to know him." Rocky laughed nervously and threw the letter into the stove, where the flames were jumping merrily. Lily's sleep was uneasily awakened by a sense of resentment, but now she was most interested in where her sister had met him. Why had they come together? Where had May disappeared to that she hadn't even spent the night at home? "Where is May? Why don't you, father, punish her?" Annoyed, she asked Uncle Tony Nakavala. Lily's heart sank a little, since she had already realized that her sister had left the house on purpose to guard her Rocky. She was his woman alone, and she wasn't ready to share. Rocky himself, on the other hand, had gone to town on business. There he saw a living mannequin of a naked girl who stood, shrouded in a transparent cloth in a wide window, and smiled at those who passed by. When the lad climbed the steps to the low porch, he a large room, silk curtained, and welcomed in a friendly manner. "Whoever you want to the prettiest, but go to this house." Rocky pushed open the door, behind which bliss awaited him, bought with little money. "Here you can feel confident and free, as if the whole world lies at your feet." May squealed and cried silently. Lily thought she had been needlessly jealous of Rocky's sister. Why would he want someone so gloomy? She's nothing to talk about. If you were married, you wouldn't have time to read. As it is, what can you take from her? My brother's father waved his hand. "Give her in marriage." "I'm glad. Girls don't want it. They're waiting for something, but time goes on." Soon Barry's brother was married to the most beautiful girl. The wedding was at my uncle's house. Bells rang and there was singing. The master and mistress came out of the house to greet the young people with bread and salt. May, as soon as she ran out into the street, caught a glimpse of Rocky, but pretended not to notice him up close. Immediately she rushed towards him and began to say something with a smile. May furtively cast glances at her lover. The matchmaking was still not happening. She didn't know what to think, losing valuable strength. The child dreamed of how they would raise him together. Unnoticeably, it got dark. The young people were all having fun. When I stopped talking, Rocky took May aside. "Let's take a little walk." "Where is it? It's snowing so much." "I like to walk in the snow." "Where's your hat?" "I lost it somewhere." "You haven't noticed that I'm losing my head around you." He laughed and started kissing May, and her head started to spin. "Let's go inside, we're freezing." "You know," May suggested, "I'm not going inside." May noticed that Rocky was leading her to his house. The brother and his wife lived there for a while. When Rocky's sister-in-law came over in the evening, she smiled cheerfully at him. "What a wife Barry's got," said Rocky enthusiastically. The girl was a hottie, caught the guy, and he had her under his thumb. Barry snapped, "Don't look at other people's wives." "That's what I'm here for." "Give me May as my wife." There was silence in the hut. Lily shrieked, sprang outside with a shot at the family, rushed after her, and barely got her back into the hut. In the house, the girl fell senseless. Minnie exulted. She had gotten her way. The wedding was a grand affair. Rocky turned out to be a rich groom, but Lily never came to her sister's wedding. She wouldn't even make the dress. The wedding gown was brought in from the city. May moved in with her husband. She was happy and excited about the baby. Rocky was with her forever, but my husband continued his secret meetings with his mistress, who was unable to throw off the ties I was bound to Rocky by. The same torn in two didn't want to lose either his wife or his mistress. Lily lived agonizing days. It was unbearable to watch her sister's happiness. How much worse she was that she had to endure the position of mistress and imagined, like Rocky spending the night with May. And then the anger and hatred in her mouth became bitter. She found no solace for herself in anything. The man she had truly loved, the man she had hoped for, had not become her husband. She had lost her dreams and hopes with him. She didn't know what to do with her life. But she loved Rocky, and that feeling was destroying her soul. She hugged him, kissed him. She was jealous of the man's wife with a mad passion. She lived a happy and carefree life. May was wrapped in loving tenderness. Rocky treated her attentively. When her belly visibly rounded, May told her husband about her pregnancy. "We're about to have a baby. Just dating, nothing happened. And all of a sudden, here we are. What do you want to say? How was your day? What happened in the past? I'm sorry you had to go through that. It's been 6 months." May didn't go to her father's house, no longer went to parties, and was often alone at home. The joyous day came. A grandmother delivered the baby. Soon the house was filled with miracles. A son was born to Rocky and May, who was named Sam. Boiling with anger, she decided to open her eyes to Rocky. She came to her sister's house, speaking at length and caustically recounting the details of her relationship with her estranged husband. Pain shot through May. She wanted to disappear, to hide from this world, but her baby sweetly blazing in her arms gave strength to the confidence that she could survive it. How much trouble she'd already overcome in her lifetime. And Rocky came home, found her on the doorstep. He saw her and realized that his sister had had enough of her silence. She stood up, coldly, looked at her lover and left. It was all over. May was crying. The little one also hummed. What's in store for us? Why doesn't anyone love us? God, why am I such a miserable girl? Angry with tears at the sobs, howled looking at her son. Along with the tears flowed out resentment, fear, confusion. And suddenly she felt that she didn't want to leave at all, but wanted to live together with Rocky to raise her son, so that her sister wouldn't shout in her face, so that people wouldn't whisper behind her back. She won. She gave birth to a big boy. She has a child. She'll live a happy life against all odds. For years, Rocky will beg forgiveness from his wife, who will stay with him for the sake of the baby. And then the irreparable happens. His wife will no longer have the strength to forgive. All that lifeline of waiting for love. The mind will remember the unhappy woman. Rocky will be orphaned in an instant and will be alone, having lost both his son and his wife. And May will hide from human prejudice in the city and soon meet a real man. Lily will accept the proposal of an American admirer, with whom Long corresponded on behalf of May. And then she suddenly decides to go to America, where she will live in luxury and wealth, but alas, without love.
Thank you for watching this video to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Like it, write comments if you like the story, and see you on the channel.